Alright, so you clicked on the video. Before I get started with the video, this is the first one I've done on this channel, and it's the first of hopefully a lot. So my name is Chance Mitchell, for those that don't know. I'm a USAPL lifter. I compete at 93 kilos. I've competed at 83, 90 kilos. I've competed in other federations. I've competed in USPA, NASA, Metroflex, MSA, I think. Metroflex actually does have a federation. I don't know if they, I don't know if they still exist, but I've done push-pull meets, I've done just deadlift only meets. I've competed in the NAPF, so the North American Regional affiliate for the IPF. I've competed IPF meet. I've competed at the Arnold several times. I've done the squat challenge. I have won the squat challenge twice. So hopefully that gives me some credit. I think it's a fun event. Just for those that don't know, the squat challenge, you do double body weight for as many reps as possible. I've done that for the first year in 2019. I won it with 419 or 420. No, 419 for 25 reps. And this last year, this 2020, last month, I've done 430 or 195 kilos for 24 reps. So I can squat, I know how to squat. I've had bad technique before, and I have good technique now, I would like to say. I've helped, tons of athletes from the beginner stages to intermediates to advanced develop good squat patterns, change their squat patterns, go over plenty of different things, fine-tuning the details, right? I'd like to think at this point that I have a good idea of how to squat. I've squatted 661 or 300 kilos in competition. I'll try to show some of these clips right here. I have squatted 305 kilos at a 10, but I have squatted 305, 672. I have squatted 501 pounds or 227.5 kilos for 16 reps. Maybe I can show another clip here. I have squatted with bad technique. Maybe I could show them one right there. I've squatted in heels. I've squatted in flat shoes. I have squatted in, mid-range heel height. I've done it all. I've seen it all. I've done it all. I've squatted in wraps. I've competed in wraps. I have just not done equipped lifting, so I don't feel qualified to really talk about any equipped lifting. For the sake of this video, we're talking about raw lifting, right? We're talking about raw with sleeves, not necessarily wraps. Wraps we can get into on another video that I think I would like to do here in the future, because I know that would help some people that like my style of training, that want to develop that kind of pattern as well, then maybe compete in another federation outside of USAPL that does raw with wraps or classic raw. So, why is it the biggest priority, right? The squat should be number one priority for a good amount of reasons. One is it's the first lift. It's the first lift out of the big three, right? So before you do bench, before you do deadlift, you have to squat. You have to put up a big squat if you want to be competitive in your division. Period. Before bench, before deadlift, you have to be very, very good at squatting. Everyone does. All of the top level lifters are very, very good at squatting. It's, in my opinion, when people talk about leverages and they talk about, well, I'm not really built to deadlift well, or I'm not really built to bench well because I have super long arms, right? I have really long arms. Some people will say those types of things. For squats, you don't really necessarily have any card to play to get out of that, right? Like, if you have really, really long legs, maybe I can include David Wilson right here. I'll put a little clip. If you have really long legs like David, that's just part of the cards that you were dealt. You have to figure out a way to squat as much weight as possible to be as efficient and as powerful as possible with those leverages, period. Obviously for bench and deadlift it's the same thing, but in this case, right, like it's the first lift. We have to put up a big squat on the board if you want a big total. So if you have, in that same vein, I am a very long-limbed individual. I squat pretty narrow, comparatively speaking, right? Me and David Wilson, we were both 93 kilo lifters. He's the 105 now, but we were very similarly built. I'm just a little bit shorter, but very long legs, very long arms, smaller torso, but we squat completely different. But we also both had very good squats, very good squats. What I would say is you're always going to want to be trying to find what's best for you, and that's something we're going to talk about in the advice range. But for one example, say in this case, right, you're already a short-limbed lifter. You have very short legs, very short legs means you're generally going to have a very efficient looking squat. Whether it's in higher heels or lower heels or flats, it doesn't really matter. Your squat's going to look pretty damn good. So usually those types of stockier built people are going to have just a massive squat, and you're generally, those people are not going to have as great of a deadlift, so you kind of have to make up with it for that on the deadlift or on the squat. In those people that are longer limbed, right, like me and David, we also have more mass, more leg, right, to use. So there's trade-off, but in that same token of me and David, right, we have a affinity towards deadlift in that case, right, with longer limbs, longer legs, longer arms. You already are better off for deadlifts. And if you pull sumo or you deadlift sumo, that's already even more in that range where you already have more to pull from with that. So it works either way. Whether you're technically built for it or not, for squats, you get a good payoff by training your quads, by really developing the skill of squatting. So it always is in your best interest to really hone in on the squat specifically. So let's talk about this. You want, in my opinion, and I've gone back and forth with this on this a lot with other people, we want volume in the beginning, but it doesn't necessarily come with you hammering out low bar competition specific squats. That doesn't necessarily have to be the play here. So let's talk about it as a beginner, right? When you're a beginner, you're getting into powerlifting. I think, me personally, when I look at a lot of people, brand new lifters in the gym, when I go to a powerlifting specific gym, in Texas, we have Absolute Recon, we have Progressive Overload, we have I think Sandoval, we have all these other great, Brazos Valley Barbell, cannot forget, Texas Barbell Syndicate, all these good powerlifting gyms. I go in and I see the college kid that is training with, kilos. They have, a 20 kilo bar. They have collars. They have everything decked out, right? But they're squatting, 140 kilos for a top set of 3 at RP 7. And I really thought it was a 7.5, but maybe it was an 8. So they write it down in their program. This is not what you should be doing. I don't want to hurt people's feelings, but if you are one of those lifters, the brand new to powerlifting, we all started there. We all started at some point, right? But being hyper specific as a beginner lifter is so clearly the wrong way to go. And I see so many people doing this, and I feel bad because I'm not going to say, hey, you should not be wasting your time doing this powerlifting specific stuff, because they're so into powerlifting. They so want to be into powerlifting and want to do all the powerlifting stuff and be cool and they're into that, and that's fine. But at the same time, we want to develop you long term and actually build strength and mass and all the things associated with being a high level lifter early on, and not do that 3 times the length, right? We want to do it early, get it out of the way, and then over time, you have all this mass to pull from. So that's what the plan is, right? You want to be doing your bro splits. You want to be doing, push-pull legs. This is the Matt Ogus 2011 push-pull legs routine everybody did. I was one of those. And I'm so happy I did all those kinds of things, because had I been one of the hyper-specific 2020 new to powerlifting people, I would have been so much worse off. And I know that's just the case. That's just fact. And I know people that watch this are gonna be like, yeah, you're 100%. Because what you're doing is you're doing the specificity of getting the skill down, but without any of the mass, without any of the actual stuff that's easy to get in that stage. In the beginning, it's very easy to develop all that kind of stuff. So in the beginning, less overall competition frequency, building more mass with lunges, leg pressing, hack squats, all the bodybuilding accessory commercial gym type stuff that anybody can get to, hammering out leg days, right? You squat once a week and you can make significant progress just by adding more weight to the bar every week. It sounds so simple that I'm saying it and obvious, but you just have to do it. And it's the most effective way. It is the meta for early powerlifting as a whole. So you can get a lot of it done without needing all the SPD, knee sleeves, all the kind of stuff that you don't really need. You don't have to be a technician with your low bar. You don't have to do all the little details right. All that stuff can happen more in the intermediate to advanced stages. So don't burn yourself out on the powerlifting real specific stuff until you're at the point where, you're an 83 kilos squatting, 455 for reps or 200 kilos for reps. That's the stage where you really should be getting after more of the kind of powerlifting specific stuff. So save that for the intermediates. And now we'll go to the intermediate side. These lifters, you have been powerlifting specific training for a few years. You probably have been training a couple years before that, but kind of just doing, whatever bodybuilding type stuff, which is great. That's what you want in that stage. But now you're at a point where you need to develop the actual skill of powerlifting and apply it to, real life, real powerlifting, day-to-day training, right? This is where you probably look into getting a coach. You don't have a cookie cutter training program. You work with, a little bit more competition frequency, where you're maybe doing, twice a week squat, a low bar day, you're a high bar day. This is at a point where you probably should have learned how to low bar squat at this point. For most people, low bar squat is going to be the effective route. There are very few individuals that are probably better high bar, but it's pretty clear at some point when one is better than the other. For example, a very good high bar squatter specifically versus a low bar squatter, it's usually someone that has very short limbs, like femurs, and generally a little bit longer torso. You kind of look at more of a Chinese or Asian Olympic weightlifting athlete. A lot of them look more of that style, and you probably already have an affinity towards that. So it's not something you should be. You keep an eye out for, but you need to learn how to low bar squat. Period. And if you decide one day down the road that you don't want to do that, then that's fine. So you want to be lower to mid-range frequency here. Like I said, probably at the two-ish range. At this point, you need to figure out: are you more of a lower volume tolerance lifter? Do you handle a little bit more of the medium or higher range? At this point for me, I personally found higher range, not just reps, but like the overall total volume in a set or in a session, like 20 to 30 reps, in a session of actual competition squat, high bar, low bar, whether it be pause, whatever it was. I was getting about, at least 25-ish reps a session at varying intensities, and I found that worked really well for me. So those are things that you should be identifying as an intermediate to really boost your squat. But overall, at this point as an intermediate, you should be getting to the point where you have a coach, or you're looking into getting a coach. You have your stance. You're about a 2 times a week frequency squatter. At this point, you should have a belt, knee sleeves, wrist straps, all that kind of stuff, and be very well trained. As an example, an 83 kilo probably squatting 200 kilos for reps. I would not say that is, at this point in powerlifting, we're not at a point where that's an advanced level anymore. Advanced is probably an 83 kilo squatting 500 pounds-ish, close to, if not more for reps. That would be more of an advanced level. We have 83 kilo lifters squatting 650 plus, so 500 is not out of the wheelhouse to be called an advanced level lifter. And now we can talk about that, right? What makes you an advanced level lifter outside of just the raw number that you're squatting at X, weight class, right? You've got to be able to identify trends in training. That, without question, is what makes you go from that level where you're squatting, 450 pounds, 440, 200-ish kilos for reps, to 520 something for reps. The details matter, and not only do they matter as far as making progress in the gym, getting to the advanced level as an actual powerlifter, you have to be able to do it in a meet and perform consistently better in a meet, and then also, once you perform well, you have to be able to learn from that, identify what you did well, what you need to change, figure out all the details. Now you have to go to the next meet, a bigger, higher level meet, probably go from local to a regional or national level meet, and do even better there against even better athletes there, and obviously do more weight. To do that, you have to maximize the details. It is the identifying frequency, identifying volume trends, figuring out, hey, was I doing more with X volume, in this range, or, maybe I need a little bit more or a little bit less, going into a meet. How do you taper into a meet with squat? For a lot of people at the higher levels, you see, for someone, as an example, I am one that can train very, very high intensity, very, very high intensity with volume, and relatively still drop, or taper down, but you can still keep a lot of it in and train into the meet or through the meet. Being able to identify that kind of a thing makes a big, big deal as an advanced level lifter. And knowing those kinds of things can take you to where, as an example, 3 years ago as a 93, I was not squatting 661, 672. Squatting closer to 570, 560 something, as a 93. And to be able to stay in the same weight class and add 100 pounds to your squat, that's not easy when you're squatting 560, about 260 kilos, around that range. It's not easy to add that much to your squat and stay in the same weight class. So as a natural lifter, you have to be able to either gain weight, or through muscle mass, overall mass, or be able to refine details enough to the point where you can do more with the same mass. So, for squats, that is the biggest deal. You have to be able to get better at the movement, be more efficient with time spending on movement, getting the actual lift better, and that comes with also, is something I wanted to talk about just a little bit, refining what you're doing in the gym as far as, accessory lifts. You probably don't necessarily need to be doing, pause tempo front squats as an advanced level lifter to improve, kilos on your squat when you're already low bar squatting, 290 kilos. We can talk more about specifics on like programming stuff, but I wanted to have this first part of the series on squatting and why it's such a big priority. It should be a big priority for people, and I think this helps. I may include a little bit more, but I think this is kind of where I want to end off at. Hopefully this helps. Hopefully you got something from it. If there's anything I can point out, or feel free, you can comment below, and I can try to get back to as many people as I can. But I think this is a good stopping point for this video. Like, comment, do all that kind of thing. Please subscribe, and I will be doing more videos like this. I like the content breakdown where I break every single thing down and I talk about it as much as I can, because I want to get more of this type of stuff out. So, support me and I can keep doing this.